To understand the modern NBA, you have to look at the math. $50 million a year for a single player used to be impossible. Now, it's the cost of doing business. Committing that kind of cash to one athlete dictates every other move a general manager makes. Signing a player to this number forces a franchise to adopt a rigid, highly constrained financial structure. Since 2014, the average maximum contract climbed gradually before aggressively spiking past the $50 million threshold. Overlay a team salary pie chart to see the supermax reality. One player consumes 35%, leaving 65% for the other 14 guys. Paying this much for one star is a gamble on depth. A team has to decide if one dominant individual is worth losing the ability to build a complete, multi-layered rotation. We are going to evaluate the NBA's 10 highest-paid players as investments, calculating the specific return a franchise gets for each of these massive contracts. In today's league, a supermax deal is not a reward for past performance. It is a high-wire financial act where the margin for error is incredibly thin. We begin with spots 10 and 9, which represent the specialist tier of supermax investments. At number 10, Devin Booker earns roughly $49 million. He is an elite scorer. For a mid-market team like Phoenix, paying him ensures the team remains relevant and competitive in a crowded Western Conference big man capable of spacing the floor at an elite level. Prioritizing offense at this price point forces a trade-off. Because the top of the payroll is so heavy, these teams often fill the rest of the roster with cheap, one-dimensional defensive stoppers, creating predictable gaps that opponents exploit in the playoffs. Moving up to number 8 introduces a specific scenario, acquiring a massive legacy contract via trade. Bradley Beal commands over $50 million. Teams absorb this contract to instantly form a big three, opting to buy a star rather than using future draft picks or free agency capital. This strategy carries a heavy cost in flexibility. Taking on a contract this large leaves the team with almost no ability to adjust the roster if a star gets injured or the chemistry fails to develop. Committing 35% of the cap to pure scoring or secondary stars leaves a front office with no margin for error. Success depends entirely on finding high-value contributors at the minimum salary. At spots 7 and 6, the investment logic changes. For these aging icons, the value is measured by more than just on-court production. Kevin Durant lands at number 7, earning $51 million. Even as he enters the later stages of his career, he maintains elite scoring efficiency. Tied with him at $51 million is LeBron James. He is a high IQ veteran and remains the undeniable face of the entire league. These contracts provide a massive off-court return. Having a global icon on the roster drives franchise valuation, secures national television slots, and ensures merchandise dominance, regardless of the team's record. The trade-off is availability. Paying aging stars means managing their regular season minutes, accepting that they will miss games to preserve their health for the postseason. Relying on these brands creates a high-variance championship window. The team's success is tied entirely to a veteran's ability to stay healthy through a grueling playoff run. For these specific players, front offices are paying for brand equity and global prestige just as much as they are paying for basketball output. Numbers 5, 4, and 3 bring us to the players compensated for absolute physical peak dominance. Giannis Antetokounmpo earns $52 million. He is an unstoppable physical force who can control both ends of the floor simultaneously. Damian Lillard sits at $53 million. This pays for his elite clutch shot-making and his ability to carry a massive offensive load for 40 minutes a night. Also at $53 million is Joel Embiid. As a dominant center, he provides a defensive anchor and an interior scoring threat that guarantees the team a competitive baseline. Investing in prime physical dominance stabilizes a franchise. When a player can dictate the pace of the game individually, the team can typically rely on consistent regular season success and a clear path to the playoffs. But this level of exertion is unsustainable. The heavy usage required to justify these contracts increases the risk of the player's body breaking down before the deal is finished. Paying for physical peaks puts a clock on the franchise. The team has to win immediately before the cumulative physical toll begins to diminish the player's return. That leaves the top 2 spots, the system engine tier. Nikola Jokic takes number 2 with a $54 million salary. His multi-MVP pedigree is built on a level of efficiency that allows him to anchor the entire offense. Stephen Curry holds the top spot at $55 million. His unique skill set forces defenses to guard the entire half court, effectively doubling the space his teammates have to operate. These players provide the highest possible return on a supermax. They single-handedly elevate the performance of role players, allowing the team to succeed even with a bench made of minimum wage contributors. However, these stars require very specific archetypes around them to be effective. If the front office cannot find the right supporting cast, the entire offensive system can stall, and roster reconstruction becomes incredibly difficult. A $55 million player doesn't just join a system, they are the system. For the investment to work, every other player on the roster must be signed to fit their exact specifications. When we weigh all these trade-offs, we arrive at the central question: when is a $50 million contract actually a smart investment? This flowchart shows the primary path to success. If the player is a true MVP engine who makes everyone around them better in the playoffs, the massive cap hit is worth the squeeze. But if you are paying top dollar for a secondary star who cannot carry a team on their own, the contract becomes a financial burden that prevents the team from improving. To see the full scale of this wealth, we have to look at the income generated away from the arena. This chart shows how a player's income scales once they hit the top of the league's payroll. While the team manages the stress of the salary cap, the player uses that status to secure massive global deals in sneakers and media, often earning more through marketing than through their actual basketball contract. The team-building dilemma is a matter of cap space, but the player's personal wealth is a matter of global branding. The franchise accepts the financial squeeze to keep the star, but the global market is what actually generates the player's true fortune.